Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Enthusiast Report. My name is Lincoln Salazar, CEO and publisher of Enthusiast Report magazine. We are getting ready to sit down with the owner, Juan, of Don Doroteo Cigars, the #1 boutique cigar in the world of 2023. Guys, I'm sitting here in Santiago, Dominican Republic, here at the Don Doroteo tobacco fields. Guys, look at this beautiful view behind me. Get ready for an amazing exclusive interview with the #1 boutique cigar of 2023. Juan, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're sitting here in the Dominican Republic in Santiago at the Don Doroteo tobacco barn, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And we're literally, this is not a fake screen that we're sitting with right now. We're actually sitting in the barn.
It's not a backdrop.
In Dominican Republic, in Santiago. So, Juan, you guys just placed as the #1 boutique cigar with Enthusiast Report in the world as a boutique. I mean, that's an incredible achievement. And I've been following what you guys have been doing, and I want to let our audience know a little bit more about Don Doroteo cigars, why it's #1. I want to know your process, your story. Your family has a beautiful story. So we're sitting, I mean, probably what, 100 feet from your family home?
That's right.
Here in the Dominican Republic, right? So tell me a little bit about the Don Doroteo story.
Yeah, so as you said, my folks live just down the road, 3-minute walk from the farm. And this barn here that we're in, this used to be barren land. When we first acquired the land, it was not a legacy, that piece that was passed down to us. We inherited the whole thing, just kind of took the keys to the kingdom. We essentially wanted to reignite the partnership that my grandfather had with La Aurora, which it was a one-part business for my grandfather, which was this here, harvesting tobacco year after year for decades and selling it exclusively to La Aurora, who he was extremely loyal to, and he helped tremendously over the decades. But I wanted to take it a step further and honor his legacy with some premium cigars. And thank you so much, first of all, guys. Everyone that has been a support from day one and has loved our sticks, and the reason why I believe we ultimately got the #1 spot for Boutique Cigar of the Year for 2023. It's been quite a ride so far, but to answer your question in the most shortest way possible, like, we just try to do everything in the same vein as my grandfather would. We named the core line Salt of the Earth for that specific reason, because we believe our grandfather was a salt of the earth man. Mm-hmm. And so we try to fill in those shoes. It's going to be tough to do over the years, but we're doing the best we can, and we hope he's not frowning down.
So tell us a little bit about La Aurora as well. So the relationship with La Aurora. So La Aurora is the first, correct me if I'm wrong, they were the first cigar factory in the Dominican Republic, correct?
That is correct.
Since 1903, right?
Yes.
And I think they just celebrated their 120-year anniversary, right? And so your grandfather was working with La Aurora, right? They were, so tobacco's just been in your blood. So what made you decide I know you wanted to honor your grandfather through cigars.
Right.
How long have you been smoking? What made you decide, hell, I'm going to throw into the cigar industry?
And it's actually mind-boggling for some folks, because I come from the investment world in the tech sector, and I did that for many years, all via Silicon Valley, where I was based. And it just, at some point, it just dawned on me, like, it doesn't matter how much money you make, you start having these lifestyle experiences that most folks won't ever have, and things that you dreamed of as a kid growing up in New York City, like I did. And then you get to a certain point where it's just numbers on a screen or on a piece of paper. And so I just felt like, the more that I dove into that world, I felt like I was losing a piece of me, in the sense of like who I am. And this is who we are at our core. I grew up walking fields just like the ones here we have behind us, with my grandfather waving a machete. And our family is very tight-knit, big family, very, very ingrained in the culture here in the Dominican Republic. And so at some point when I was investing, I just said, you know what, like, it's probably going to be a good idea if I keep investing for the business sake, because it takes a few years to get off the ground, get running. But I thought, let me give it a shot. Let me see if this is something that we can do. Now, being that I'm from New York, and so is my cousin, by the way, who runs the farm operations here in the Dominican Republic, needless to say, none of us had a green thumb. So we thought, hey, one thing I do know how to do is put together tech companies. So let me apply what I know from a business building perspective, putting a plan together, understanding that, and being humble enough to understand that you don't know everything. There's going to be tremendous amounts of unknowns. And so you just have to put the right people in place so you can execute properly. And so we apply that same methodology here. And it started with a quick phone call to La Aurora. They had no idea who I was. But I told them the story. Hey, I am Doroteo's grandson. He's been, harvesting tobacco for you guys since 1936, if you could believe that, since he was 16 years old. And he did that well into his later years. And so they did a bit of vetting, got back to me and said, all right, Kay, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
So that's what I told him. I want to do this here. I want to grow tobacco just like my grandfather did, and I want to honor him with a cigar.
Now, you guys aren't just private labeling cigars. I mean, there's a lot of people that get into the industry, especially from other sectors, and they private label, or they come out, there's blends that maybe already exist.
Right.
I mean, you guys are really taking this from the ground up. I mean, I've had the opportunity to be here in the Dominican Republic with you and see the actual fields and the farm, and obviously we're sitting in here in the barn.
Right.
But I mean, you're pretty much all in, right? You're growing your own tobacco, right? And then tell me a little bit about the blends that you guys currently have on the market, and you have a new one coming out. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that too. So we debuted in 22 at PCA, Premium Cigar Association, for those of you who don't know. It's the biggest cigar trade show in the US. It's hosted in Vegas. And we make our big splash, as they say, with a 14-year-old cigar, meaning not the plants themselves. The cigars were actually rolled in 2008, sat in the aging room for 14 years, and I happen to have access to those because they're, as the master blender Manoli Noah would say, they're reserved for friends and family. And I was fortunate enough to be bestowed those cigars, from the master blender for that same reason, because of my grandfather's legacy. And so a lot of folks are skeptical, rightfully so. You have a new brand coming in, and they have this crazy story, and they're saying they have a 14-year-old cigar. But my favorite part is when they actually light it up in front of me after I give them that spiel, and they take a puff, and they're just like, holy cow. And then they start looking at the ash, they start looking at the burn, they start looking at the plume, and immediately they know it's the real deal. And however, even though I was like really excited about that, the thing that I was going to be the most proud of was when I could actually get my hands dirty, create our own core line, and blend the cigars ourselves alongside the master blender, and see how the market would perceive those blends. Because in reality, like you said, anyone could go and buy some cigars, and that's what we did for the first blend. But for the core line, we actually got our hands dirty and worked together with a master blender side by side and curated every single strain of tobacco that was going to go into those blends.
And this is some beautiful packaging. I mean, I remember seeing you guys at PCA not too long ago, a couple years ago when you're starting, and the packaging, every detail that you guys have put in the packaging, the marketing, everything you guys are doing with it. Tell me a little bit about that and the concept of that.
Absolutely. So again, a lot of different things here. So coming from the tech sector, investing, and a little bit of marketing background on my end, and my co-founder Brandon Dahlman, he also had a lot of the same background. We had an eye for detail, attention to detail. As they say, the devil's in the details. And we thought it was really important to make sure that not only were the stakes great. So again, this is a 14-year-old cigar. And, there's probably a handful of boutique or even some of the OGs of the industry that wouldn't take the time to really dress it up the way we did. But we thought it was really important that if we're going to sell an ultra premium product that's ultimately a lifestyle product, and we were going to charge up the wazoo for it, then it's probably a good idea to give the end consumer a flawless experience, not only from the presentation from a marketing standpoint, but also in the delivery time. Because as you know, there's bottlenecks in all parts of the chain here in the industry. So we got really lucky with this. It's been very serendipitous for us. Not only the marketing, everything, the barn itself, the folks that we were fortunate enough to cross paths with to build the barn, were the same folks that built the Davidoff barn. And it's like, that was...
Yeah, you were telling me that you're a fan of Davidoff, and you were saying the barn is
it's a replica, it's an exact replica. It was built by the same builder.
Wow.
And that was all coincidence. And so as it pertains to the marketing piece, we had no idea where to go. Like, how do we find a great designer of cigar rings and boxes and whatnot? Because this is a very unique product, a very unique industry. You can't just find a designer from the tech world. It's going to look all modern and cyber or whatever. So we just went on, the internet, and we started looking up on random sites, Fiverr and you name it. And of all platforms, we found this amazing portfolio, this modge podge of different cigar boxes and rings on Pinterest. And so we're like, oh, that looks really cool. Let's hit him up and see what happens. And then we got on a Zoom call. The guy tells us we only have 20 minutes, but shoot your shot. And then I started looking in the background. He has a bunch of accolades and awards. And I'm like, who is this guy? Come to find out, it was Jeff Moss, who previously had worked with another giant in the industry, Alec and Bradley.
Yeah, Alec Bradley.
Yeah, for over 13 years.
Yeah.
He was their creative director. He helped them, pretty much build their empire from a marketing standpoint, branding and presentation. And so, it became apparent to us very quickly that it's not about just building a ring. Let's design a ring and build around it. It's about building the brand first. So the box, the rings, the sleeves, everything you see, there's so much thought put behind everything.
Absolutely. So you have some Corojo sitting right here, right? Is that you say that's Corojo?
Criollo.
Criollo.
Yes. So we have some Criollo 98. This is a Cuban seed here that we grew in the Dominican Republic. And the cool thing about this here is it's actually in our blend here. So both Salt of the Earth blends actually have Criollo 98 in the filler.
And you work with Andulo a lot, correct?
Andullo,
Which is not very common, right? It's one of the hardest to work with, no?
Yes, it's one of the hardest to work with because of the potency, how strong it is. It can overpower the whole cigar, and that unfortunately happens to some manufacturers when they try to blend with Andullo. It tends to overpower the complexities of all the flavor profiles, and then it just it kind of ruins the whole experience. So there's that, and then also from a cultural standpoint, I think this is the real psychological piece that we did well. We took something that was considered a commonplace thing. It's the local poor man's tobacco.
Yeah.
It's only used traditionally for over 500 years. It's been used here in the Dominican Republic as pipe and chewing tobacco. And so we said, you know what? We know that this is going to be a huge risk for us. It's going to be our core line. And for us to come out the gate swinging with a core line that incorporates a strain of tobacco such as Andullo that is so difficult to work with and has traditionally not been pitched as a high-end luxury item, we thought, hey, let's go ahead and take a swing at it and perfect that. And it took us a long time. We worked on that for over a year and a half before we got down to the final blends that we were like, this is it right here.
So tell me a little bit, Juan, what does a cigar mean to you? I mean, I know you're here from the Dominican Republic, your family has the history, but what does a cigar mean to you?
That's an interesting question. For me, it pulls me to my legacy, to my family. I remember when I first, started putting together the idea, like, what if I can, take on my grandfather's legacy? It was a few years back. I was smoking cigars on my deck, and I was just thinking about my grandfather. For whatever reason, he just kept popping in my head every time I was smoking a cigar. And then I was just thinking about, some of the nostalgic memories that I would have. And so whenever I smoke a cigar, especially back then, it was just, it would take me back to a time capsule. It was a certain place in time where, I was here in the Dominican Republic. And fast forward, a few years, here we are. So
yeah. So where do you want to see Don Doroteo cigars in the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you see it?
In the next 3 to 5 years, I mean, that's a multifaceted question. Like from a portfolio standpoint, we want to really make our mark in the industry. Not only leveraging legacy sticks, which we have some cool ones coming up. We could talk about that in a bit. But I also want to make sure that we're blending with purpose and with intention behind every single blend. We're not just putting together the typical, Habano, Connecticut, Maduro, Barber Pole. We're actually trying to not reinvent the wheel, but really do something to stand out and give the end consumer a unique, different experience. And from a brand perspective, I mean, just what we're doing now with the Salts of the Earth excursions and all the tourism we're bringing here to the Dominican Republic. Kind of going back to your previous question about what does a cigar mean to you, it's this country, it's the embodiment of the soul of this country. And I think it's important for folks from, the cigar world and abroad, perhaps folks that never even thought about smoking a cigar or never saw the beauty in it, that if they come to this country, they see some of the beauty in this country, not only here in, this cool barn and the farm, but see some of the beautiful and historical pieces that lingered all throughout the island. I think they will leave with a very unique experience and, memories.
You guys are going to be doing excursions, right? Here in the Dominican Republic and some stuff in Puerto Rico. Can you talk anything about that at all yet? Or tell us a little about that.
So we have a junior venture with a Puerto Rican fly fishing company. Mutual buds of ours from the investment world. And, they reside in Puerto Rico and they're fly fishing out there. They're already doing tours. We're talking about doing the same. One day we link up, we're smoking cigars and we're talking. We're like, hey, we're already in the Caribbean. Why don't we do this joint venture where we can, give folks an immersive experience. You get to see this cool piece here in the farm, in the barn, the cigars, take you some excursions in other parts of the island, but then you could take a little hopper over to Puerto Rico, and you could hang out in Culebra Island off the coast of San Juan, and then you could fly fish in a relic, a historical boat, the Hemingway, one of the Hemingway replicas.
It's one of the Hemingway, yeah, right?
Right, yeah, and it's from 1937. It's been completely refurbished in 2019, and it's going to be decked out obviously with cigars and the whole nine. It's a pretty cool experience.
That's fantastic. So, Juan, I can't tell you, congratulations, by the way, on, I can't tell you this. So, a little background with me, which I'm sure you know, and for those who don't, I've been in the industry for about 15 years. I've smoked over 20,000 cigars. I've been a cigar enthusiast for over 20 years, and I've published over 20,000 pages on cigars in my career. And I can tell you, and I want to tell the audience, is with Don Doroteo Cigars, I've had the opportunity to get to know Juan and his partners, Brandon, and other people that are involved too. I can't tell you, we're very proud with Enthusiast Report to have this as our #1 boutique cigar this year, because not only were the cigars phenomenal, so I highly recommend to any consumer to go, if they haven't already tried one, to pick one up. I also highly recommend for a retailer to carry it in their shop if they're not carrying it now, because I also do believe that you guys are doing the groundwork. I've seen a lot of people come in the industry over the years, over decades, for 15 years now, I've seen a lot of people come and go in the industry.
Right.
And I do believe that Don Doroteo as a boutique line and a boutique cigar is going to be around for a very long time. And I've seen you guys here in the fields working, pretty much working your asses off. And I've seen what you guys are putting into your business, the look and feel, the cigars are fantastic, and you're not taking any shortcuts.
Right.
And you're paying huge tribute to your family, your legacy in the Dominican Republic. So because of that, I can just say, guys, if you have not picked up a Don Doroteo cigar, make sure to pick up a Don Doroteo cigar at your local lounge. If they don't have it, ask for it. And if not, make sure to DM, follow you guys on, what's your social media handle?
Don Doroteo Cigars everywhere.
Yeah, make sure that you guys are very active on it.
Yep.
So make sure to DM them, find out where they can get it, and call their local store to get it. Because I can tell you guys, in my years of doing this, this is one of the few every couple years that I say is going to have a long term in the cigar industry. So welcome to the cigar industry. Congratulations on your #1 cigar of the year, and welcome to cigar business.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Cheers.